Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lindsay and this is Waldorf Inspired Roots. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing our high school geometry curriculum choices and resources that my son will use this upcoming school year. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and say hello down in the comments. I'm so excited to share some of the curriculum choices and resources that we have picked out for my son who will be in 10th grade this upcoming school year. So this is a high school geometry main lesson block that I put together for him. Now the first book that I'm going to show you is The Complete High School Study Guide, Everything You Need to Ace Geometry in One Big Fat Notebook. We're using this series of books for a couple of our main lesson blocks as our primary textbook, which will act as our guide as we're going through things, but will supplement quite a bit with this. So I have broken this up into different lessons, or at least I've started to. I haven't finished, but I am trying to break it up as far as which lesson coordinates with what I want to do. So I'm just going to kind of flip through it, and then I do have on my post-it notes, I put the lesson, what chapters I want to read, complete the checks, and then what we're going to do, as far as with our other resources that will tie into this. So I have started, trying to organize this. I'm not finished yet, but I just want to show you what this book kind of looks like. So it introduces you in each chapter to a new thing or a new concept or whatever, and when you get to the end of the chapter, you'll get to a check your knowledge, and all of their books across all the subjects are set up this way. So it will have a check your knowledge, and it has some problems to work through, and then it will have the answers, and so I will have him work through those, and then I will just make sure he's right. As long as he is, getting them correctly, then we would move on. We work on a mastery grading scale, so we don't move on until I know he's got this. And if he is struggling with it, then what I would do is we would pull in more resources until I know that he's mastered, what he needs to learn for that. So I'm just going to pop this right back where I had it. So that is how that works. Now I'm just going to very quickly just sort of flip through so that you can see the whole book is set up the same way. Now this is a textbook that will definitely cover everything that you would expect to find, like when he goes to take his SATs or ACTs, or even the ASVAB if he decides to go into the military, which is something he's considering. This has all the things that I know are going to help prepare him for some of the college level tests. But since we at our homeschool try to follow as much of the Waldorf philosophy as we can, I do like to bring in other elements. So this will be our main textbook, but I actually have several other resources that I'm going to show you. And the first one that I want to show you is actually this book. It is called Geometry and the Imagination, and this is a Waldorf, it says the imaginative treatment of geometry in Waldorf education. Now this book, when I read the description, said that it kind of takes you for geometry for upper elementary or like 6th grade up through high school. And so there's a lot in here, and so we are going to be pulling from this book as much as we possibly can, wherever it coordinates with what we're doing in his main textbook. But we are going to try very hard to get through a lot of this, and it does go through. I mean, this is has so much information, and this might actually take us longer than we are going to dedicate 2 full main lesson blocks that will be separated at different times of the year for geometry. But I will imagine that we will probably do an additional geometry, main lesson block or 2 next for the following year, which would be his 11th grade year as well, because that would give us time to get through some of the more extensive, I mean, geometry is a huge thing. So for 10th grade, we're going to be doing what would be considered beginning geometry at the high school level, and then we can expand on that the following year. So, but this is this book, and like you saw, there's so much in here, and I will link everything down in the description box below. The next 2 books that I want to introduce you to, we actually won't be doing specifically for geometry. He's going to have, it's considered one of his arts, and he rotates through different arts every day, and so he'll have a day specifically for form drawing. But since form drawing is very much geometry and, you know, shapes and things, I definitely wanted to show you these 2 books, which he will be using during his form drawing time, which he will do once a week. But I have both. I've got workbook 1 and workbook 2. Workbook 1 is for children 6 to 10. Workbook 2 is for children 10 to 12. My son is 15. However, we are very new to Waldorf for him. I've been exploring Waldorf since my 2.5-year-old, well, actually since I was pregnant with my 2.5-year-old, but we just started incorporating it this year, and so these concepts are new to him. He hasn't done form drawing, and so because they're new, we have started at the beginning, and he just seems to move through them a little bit quicker. But this is kind of what form drawing is, and it teaches you, I believe the first lesson is a straight line and a curved line, and everything you can make from there. And it does get into pretty complex things at the end. I actually, there's mirroring, which is actually a pretty challenging concept, but we've got all kinds of, you know, forms as you get, you know, further through this book. And then, like I said, this one is for 6 to 10. So this next one is for 10 to 12, so I'm sure you can imagine it's actually a lot more advanced than the previous book. And so here's some of the forms that he's going to be working through. And as we work through these, we will incorporate geometry into, as far as measurements and, you know, using the compass and things like that. So I wanted to make sure I showed you those 2. Now, the next 2 are kind of similar to the ones that I just showed you. We've got drawing circle images and drawing geometric solids. We will start with this one, and this is kind of an extension to form drawing, and we will be doing this with his form drawing, but also with his geometry. So it starts with 3-fold symmetry, and goes into 4-fold symmetry and 5-fold symmetry, and I believe it gets pretty, yep, there's 6-fold, and so I'm just going to kind of flip through, but I believe it gets pretty intense, and I'm not sure how far. There's 7-fold, and there's 8-fold symmetry, so as you can tell, they're getting more and more complex. That's 9-fold symmetry, 10-fold and 11-fold symmetry, 12-fold symmetry, and we are nearing the end. Wow, that's pretty awesome. These are going to be so fun to do. I believe that might be, yeah, okay, so it goes up to 12-fold symmetry. So it gets pretty complex there at the end, and then we will, you know, be able to color those shapes in and make them very beautiful. And so the next one is drawing geometric solids. So this one is talking about 3-dimensional solids, and it walks you through the steps on how to draw those, and they are just gorgeous. These are going to be so fun to make. I'm so excited to be able to do some of these. So that's those. And now the last sort of textbook, if you will, I actually got from online. It is Waldorf Essentials, and this is a journey through Waldorf geometry, a guide for grades 5 through 7. Now, he hasn't really done a lot of geometry in the past. I've been homeschooling him since 5th grade, and we've been doing other things, getting him caught up on some things. We took a little bit of time to sort of reacclimate into homeschooling. I forget the term for it, but you know, from public school to homeschooling. And so we took a little bit of time to find out what his interests were and things. And so we, you know, there are some things that I feel like we missed. So we are going back, even though this is for grades 5 through 7, it's things he doesn't know, and so he needs to know them. And so we're going to be doing, you know, these things, you know, this time. Now I do post-it note everything. I can't remember how much this cost, but it wasn't very expensive. It was pretty inexpensive for this, but I did pay through PayPal for it. And I've looked through it and it looks amazing. Now the way that they have it set up, they have grade 5 geometry lessons, and you're going to go through and you'll see lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, you know, and it keeps going. And every grade has, I believe, 12 lessons. There's lesson 10, lesson 11, and lesson 12. And then you would get into grade 6 geometry lessons, and this first page is lesson 1. So we are actually going to work from the start to the finish, so he'll get from 5th grade to 8th grade all in 1 year. Well, within the 2 main lesson blocks we're doing, and I believe they're both about 4 weeks. I think one of them may be 5 weeks, I can't remember. But we will get through all of this in addition to the textbook that we're doing. So the way that we're going to do it is at the start of our day, we will play a game or work with some of the other tools that I'll show you in a minute. We may do a read aloud. I've got some picture books that I'm also going to show you in a minute. And then we'll start our main lesson with going through his geometry textbook, and then we'll end with the projects of drawing these beautiful you know, geometric shapes and doing these lessons, sorry. And so I'm just gonna kind of flip through. This is gonna be quite an extensive lesson, but it looks so fun. I think the next page also, I just love these. So these are gonna be some things that we'll be working through in addition to the other textbook type things. And I'm just gonna move these aside. So the next thing that I'm going to show you actually are just what we're going to be working on these with. I found the most beautiful graphing notebook. It has quad graph paper. It has 160 numbered pages, and it also has a table of contents, which will be wonderful because as he's going through, he can kind of write down so he can reference back later. But I loved the design on the front. It goes right along with our theme. And then inside it has the table of contents, page number, subject, and then on each page it has, you know, here it has the page number and then just the quad graphing paper. And as you see, they're all the same. And like I said, it has 160 pages. So we will be using that for whatever we need graph paper for. And then the next thing, I just got him a Arteza sketchbook, and I did get a fairly large one, so he has plenty of space to draw some of these amazing, you know, geometric drawings. And it's just sketch paper, so it's not the most thick paper, but it is definitely thicker than, say, computer paper or whatnot. It's kind of more the thickness of construction paper, but it's a nicer texture. And so there are a lot of pages here, and we will go ahead and get him another one if he runs out of space, but I think this should be big enough for him. And then the next thing that he'll be using with those that I want to show you, I did pick up this tin of, this is just the Crayola signature colored pencils. There are plenty of other colored pencils, and when I went to order, I actually was looking for the Lyra ones or Stockmar. A lot of them, the time for them to get here was going to be very long, and some of them were back ordered, and so I picked up this one. It should be fine. We may order different ones later, but these are the fancier version of Crayola from what it looks like, and it comes in this really adorable tin, and when you open it up, it's got the protective plastic sheet, and then here are the colored pencils, and I believe there are 24. So there's 24 colors, and that will be plenty for a geometry unit, and they look very good. These are actually supposed to be the soft, yeah, so they're not super hard They're the soft, soft version. And so I think that those will be perfect. Now, the next thing that I'm going to show you are actually our picture books. We do like to bring in some picture books into every unit that we do. And I discovered the circumference books. I have, I believe, 3 of them, yes. I discovered those on, I believe, Pepper and Pine's channel. I absolutely love her channel. So I went ahead and picked these up. Now this is circumference and the first round table, and it's circumference, radius, and diameter. And I'm just gonna kind of flip through some of the illustrations. And I love picture books. I love the simplicity of it. It really helps you to understand a concept in a very simplified way, and it's a nice way to start what we're doing. And so these will be something, it would be like our opener one day, or maybe several days we would read the same book. And so that's the illustrations. The illustrations are darling, and the next 2 are the same. I will flip through them though. It's circumference and the Isle of Imiter. So this is area and perimeter. And there's actually a whole series, so I believe there's quite a few of these books. I just picked up these 3 for now though. But here's the illustrations for those. And then the last circumference book that I have is Circumference and the Great Knight of Angleland, and it's measuring angles. And obviously these are all geometry things, so it'll be perfect. The illustrations again are just amazing. And it does go into talking about some of the tools that you'll use within geometry and how to measure the angles. And so there you have it. And then the next book that I want to talk about is What's Your Angle, Pythagoras? And this is a math adventure by Julie Ellis. And this is a book, I haven't read it, it's new to us too, but it's about a boy named Pythagoras, and it just kind of goes through how, the math and the different theories that he discovered. And that's kind of what that book is. And then I can do an update once we've actually gone through these more, and once we see how we end up using them. But the next book is, I believe, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I think it's Euclid, the Man Who Invented Geometry. And it is another picture book, but it's black and white, and it's more of a picture book slash reference book, and it has chapters, so it's a little bit more information than the last couple picture books. But I think that this will be another one that we can do as a morning opener. Now this next book is The School of Numbers, written by Emily Hawkins, illustrated by Daniel Frost. Now this is not just geometry, however, it kind of covers learning through 40 simple lessons. You learn about mathematics, and so it's kind of a little bit of everything. It starts with getting the knack of numbers. It talks about what are digits, making things add up. I mean, there's so much here, literally from the start of math all the way through. But we do have all shapes and sizes, and so it does talk about angles and shapes and triangles and circles and pi and perimeters, and so all those things go along with what we will be learning this year, which is geometry. And so and then it does go into real world math, and let me see if there's actually more. No, so these are the things that we are going to talk about with this, and we are going to do the whole book, but we'll probably every morning we'll read one section or whatnot. Now I'm just going to kind of flip through so that you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. It is a lot of information. We'll probably do one lesson as an opener per day that we do our 2 main lesson blocks, and we will get through probably this whole book, and it'll be a nice refresher for the things he doesn't know, and it'll also teach him a lot of things that maybe he missed or has forgotten. So this will be a wonderful addition to our 2 main lesson blocks for geometry. Now the next few things that I'm going to bring out here are the tools we're going to use. The first one is by Mr. Pen. I did just go ahead and pick up this, and it's a geometry set. And let me get it out carefully. There's a lot in here. And I actually don't remember how to use a lot of these things. Of course, there are plenty of them that I do, but I'm going to have to definitely refresh my memory with some of these. There's a little sticker, it's their logo, and then as far as the tools, it has plenty of the angles and compasses and what else does it say it has in here? It might even have a list. Yeah, so it has just, I mean, you can see what's here, but just it has metal study compass, a metal precision bow compass, metal graphic compass, extra lead for compass, metal divider, 2 pencils for compass, 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil, 0.5 millimeter lead for mechanical pencil, eraser, metal pencil sharpener, 6-inch ruler, 30-degree and 60-degree set square, 45-degree set square, protractor, and 6-inch protractor with swing arm. So, I mean, we've got this one here is the one with the swing arm, which is great. And then we've got all of these other ones, and then we've got all of these compass pieces here. We've got several of them. This one you can't just pull open, because, well, I'm sure you could if you used enough force, but it will surely break it. But it does have this nice wheel, which is so nice because that keeps it steady. And then we've got these 2 little pencils. We've got what feels like a very nice eraser, and then we've got all this lead. So those are going to be wonderful. We'll be able to use all of those throughout all of our drawings and things like that. And then the next thing I have are these 3-dimensional geometric shapes, and we have so many different, you know, the 3-dimensional solid shapes here. These are so wonderful to have when you're doing a geometry lesson, because when you're looking through a book, even though sometimes they're drawn in, you know, 3D, it's still a 2D image. And so when you have a physical, tangible thing in your hand that is 3-dimensional, you can get a lot better of an idea of, you know, what that shape is in a 3-dimensional form. And because he's in high school, he's at the perfect age that we can actually use these 3-dimensional forms and do some math with it and try to figure out what is the circumference of this. How do we figure that out for a 3-dimensional thing? Figuring out, you know, the square, inches or whatnot of some of these things, or, you know, different measurements. So, you know, there's, just to show you a few of the other shapes in here. I think I'm missing a couple that I haven't showed you yet, but there you have it. So we will have a lot of fun with those. Now, the next 3 things I'm going to show you would be things that we use as openers. So, actually, the first one I show you will be these. Now, thankfully, there is a reference in here, if I can get it out. And it tells you how to put them back together, thank goodness, because I probably wouldn't be able to figure it out for a while. So it'll be nice when we're trying to clean up to have these. So these are just little like mind teaser puzzle games. And it's nice to start with something like this. I like using 3-dimensional things that force you, or doing anything that forces you to use both of your hands, because if you're using both of your hands, then you're using both sides of your brain, and so it kind of is like a brain wake up, if you want to call it that. But so these are nice. It'll just be a fun thing for my son to just kind of sit down and just kind of tinker with for a while before we actually start the meat of our main lessons. And so that's what that one looks like. So there's those. Now the next thing that is kind of along the same lines, you're using both your hands, and it's just sort of something to kind of get your brain working, is our tangram puzzle that we have here, and all the little pieces come out, And there's actually multiple ways that you could put this back together. And so it's just kind of fun to tinker with that at the start of our day as well. Now the last thing that I have to show you is this game. It's called Math Stacks Geometry. There's actually a lot of stacks games, and so this is just the geometry one, and we haven't played it yet, but I did go ahead and read the instructions. So there are 20 math stacks, and you put them face up on the table, place the remaining cards face down in a drawing pile. Player 1 chooses a card from the drawing pile and places it face up on the corresponding starter card to start the stack. Play continues with the next player. Any player who completes a stack by placing the third and final matching card wins that stack. And then it does have the answer key just to check it. And so I'm just going to flip through, and whoever wins the most stacks at the end of a certain amount of time, or if you want to complete and do all of them, you could do it that way as well. But basically there's a cute angle, an angle that measures less than 90 degrees, and then it will have a picture. Obtuse angle, an angle that measures more than 90 degrees, and then it has a picture. And so these would be all shuffled and mixed up. But I'll just kind of flip through. Right angle, an angle that measures 90 degrees with a picture. So these are kind of what those are. And so they'll all be shuffled and you play it as a game. So that would be just a fun thing that we can do to kind of wake up our brains first thing, at the start of our main lesson time. And so yeah, that's all the things we have for geometry. I hope that you were able to, get some ideas if you are getting ready to plan a geometry main lesson this would really work for, you could tailor this to work for pretty much any age, because there's parts of it that can kind of go for anything. So I hope that there were some ideas in here that were able to help inspire your lesson that you might be planning. And if you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and I would love to hear any comments or feedback in the comment section below. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.